Good afternoon and welcome to this edition of The Faculty, our flagship program on Delta Television, Asaba, the People's Pride, where we look at issues as they arise. Well, Nigeria for some time now has been boiling with so many issues. Amongst them is the issue of the new national minimum wage, the clamor for a new minimum wage because of rising inflation rate and the removal of fuel subsidy by the Tinubu-led administration in May 29, 2023. Now we are in May 2024, yet our salaries, workers' salaries remain same, no increment, no thanks to what's been going on and what's been happening. But very recently, a few days to Workers' Day, just yesterday, the federal government announced an increment of 25% and 35% for federal civil servants. A move that the NLC, the Nigeria Labour Congress, has said no to. Well, there's so many biting issues. Very recently, this morning, we heard of the NLC strike or NLC issue with the federal government that the new minimum wage has to be implemented before the 31st, on or before the 31st of May 2024, else there will be a shutdown. All right, so the Vanguard newspaper or the Nigerian Tribune captured it this way. It says, announce new minimum wage before May 31 or risk industrial disharmony. These and many more issues around the expected national new minimum wage will be up for discussion on the faculty right here on Delta Television, Asaba. My name is Onome Iyarowe. Joining me as panelists are great men and a lady of great mind who will share their thoughts with us on the issues of the new national minimum wage. Is the federal government true to its promises? Is the federal government real to the Nigerian worker? And then labor's negotiations, have they been okay? Have they been going on well? And do they really mean well for the Nigerian worker? These and many more, they will join us in discussing. So ladies and gentlemen, I have with me Comrade Meshach Oza.
Thank you very much.
So good to have you.
Always a pleasure.
Then of course we have the only lady amongst them, Comrade Tina Uche. Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon. It's good to be here again.
Thank you. Then we have Comrade Enite Igeri. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Our panelists on the faculty this afternoon here to do justice to the issue of the new national minimum wage. Let's have your thought process. Rising from May 29, 2023 till now, the issue of increase in the new minimum, in the national minimum wage has been ongoing to the point where we've celebrated Workers' Day. Till now, nothing tangible can be said to have happened. What would be your take on this?
Yeah, thank you very much. First and foremost, we need to understand the historical perspective of Workers' Day. Well, and the importance of the worker and how the worker should be appreciated. Workers' Day actually was instituted by Kaduna and Kano state governments in 1980 in celebration of their workers, and it was put into the Nigerian lexicon by the Shehu Shagari administration in 1981. And ever since then, every May 1st has been set aside as in line with international best practices and International Workers' Day. Nigeria here we celebrate it as Workers' Day. 2024 Workers' Day was premised on a lot of expectations from people, from especially the Nigerian worker, based on the assumptions and the negotiations between the government and agents of the Nigerian Workers Trade Union Congress and Nigerian Labour Congress and its affiliates. Having had a series of meetings and negotiations in the last 1 year, we expected, there was so much anticipation in the 36 states of the Federation and Abuja from the presidency and looking on to the state governors to make a formal policy pronouncement in relation to the new national minimum wage. 24 hours to the May Day, we saw the federal government through the National Wages Commission and National Wages and Fiscal Commission coming out to say they're increasing the salary between 25 and 35%. That was a negotiation that happened like 5 years ago that Labour put forward to the Buhari administration then, and I think it didn't see the light of day. Now, seeing that fact that the May Day was coming and workers became apprehensive, they came with a caveat didn't go down well with the workers. Yesterday, along at the federal and state levels, people were expecting a policy statement. And the policy statement didn't come on the federal level, and that's why at the state level it was difficult for some governments to look into the issue of minimum wage without recourse to the federal government. But then, Alassane Shomale, former Labour leader, came out yesterday to tell Nigerians that yes, that in as much as subsidy and was removed and the naira was floated, he expected that most state governors would do justice by increasing at least by increasing the basic salary of the worker, because the FAC allocation has been increased as a result of the increase from the removal, as a result of more money coming from the removal of fuel subsidy. But that is a question for another day. Not the basic a question for another, but the basic issue here is that majority of the expectations of the Nigerian worker vis-a-vis minimum wage increment, percentage increment in basic salary does not reflect to minimum wage. Now, percentage increment can be reversed as a case, but minimum wage is a policy statement, and constitutionally, and I make bold to say, I think our National Assembly, they erred on this, because constitutionally, minimum wage is supposed to be reviewed every 5 years. Yeah. And the National Assembly, we have not seen that. Yeah. National Assembly has not said anything. So it's a lot of players. The Nigerian workers were not happy yesterday. The state in Asaba here, Delta State workers were not happy. They expected a policy statement as well. But most importantly, the entire Nigerian worker has not been happy. Increment does not reflect the minimum wage situation that we crave for, considering the inflation and the depreciation of the naira, the inflation,
we'll
and all
come to
that.
Yes, let's quickly have your take, Comrade Uche. I see you are itching to talk. Let's get your view on this.
I'm in agreement, totally agreement with what you. If you ask me personally,
yes, when you say you're totally in agreement with what they just said, he made mention of the National Assembly actually implementing a new minimum wage or increment every 5 years. But Nigerians or Nigerian workers have not seen that happen for so many years. So let's toe that line.
I'm not surprised.
Okay.
Because the expectation of people were so high yesterday, and the expectation was just dashed. But personally, I wasn't surprised. You know, following the antecedent of this federal-led government, you don't expect anything new, because like we were here 2 months ago, and we are going to repeat most of the things we discussed last time. That we don't expect so much from this government, because he said that he's going to start where his stopped. Now, talking about the proposal of the NLC, they proposed for 615,000, and I took my time to look at the breakdown. You know, even looking at the breakdown, it doesn't get to anywhere. It does not, because
given that it is 615,000.
Absolutely. When looking at the breakdown, I did a market survey 3 days ago. I went to the market. You can't get vegetable of 100 naira. Mm-hmm. I was asking them for vegetable ugu. They said from 150 to 200. Now the breakdown of NFC is for 6. Yes. Family of 6. But we know that there are people who are more than that. Let's go for that. Okay, vegetable of 200 naira. How many family members? I'm talking about 1 person or 2 persons. What of the family of 6? So think, looking at the economic situation and what the federal government, look at the tariff, electricity tariff. Look at the fuel. So what I want to say is that it's unfortunate that the we are expecting so much, but I'm not going to get better.
All right, I want to stand with your view, but let's move on to Comrade Enite Igiri. The Nigerian Labour Congress, the Trade Union Congress, TUC, are agitating for 615,000 naira minimum wage increment. Do you think it's reasonable given the Nigerian situation?
It's laughable.
Very laughable.
I think because it appears like NLC and TUC, they are not living in reality. It's not possible. You know, see, you don't go into a negotiation because it's a negotiation. Yeah. You go into a negotiation knowing all the indices that are there. If you are asking for a minimum wage of even 1 million naira, you can put it forward. It's just like trying to buy. The person gives you a price, but you have to pay what is realistic. Even the other companies can pay it. So when NLC, what I see about this current crop of NLC is that, I'm sorry to say, it's like they are jokers.
No, there's nothing to
It's as if they are jokers.
Yes,
Because
that
they're not going.
about,
That's
yes.
why I am disappointed when somebody tells me that he was expecting a statement yesterday. The president cannot even make that statement. Because minimum wage is not a statement by the president, it's a law.
It's a
It's
law.
policy.
Yes.
So the Revenue Mobilization and Fiscal Allocation Commission will meet, the governors will meet, everybody meets, they agree, they take, they make a bill, take it to the House that goes through 3 readings. So if it has not even gone through first reading, what are you expecting on May 1st? So sometimes I don't know whether Nigerian workers really operate, I'm sorry to say, not to sound sarcastic, but whether they really know the reality of what is happening. First thing is this: if it's to make minimum wage by the federal government, it's easy. How many workers does the federal government have? Federal government's wage bill is not crazy. But you have to know that you cannot discuss minimum wage without looking at the state governors. So the minimum wage must be looked at what states can pay. As we speak now, more than 50 states in Nigeria, they're not able to pay 30,000 minimum wage. They're not. So many states are not paying it till this day.
Why? Is it that they are not
That
getting
is not my
allocation?
issue here first, but even then, if they are failing to pay 30,000, could not enforce 30,000, can that labor enforce 600,000? We must tell ourselves the truth. Let's not bury our heads in the sand. So the truth is this: we need to sit down as labor with government and discuss it clearly. What is possible at this point? I tell you, Lagos State, as we speak, continues to pay the 35% workers. You know, what's it called? There's a word they use, whether work, just as we Delta State paid, I think was it 10,000. Although 2 days or so ago, the governor said he is going to 70,000, whatever they choose to. But what I'm trying to say is this: the reason why this negotiation is dragging is this: the governors are not going to agree to one minimum wage being given by the federal government. So that's why I say it must be, they must all agree. Are we going to take minimum wage by regions, or are we going to take minimum wage by states? Remember, even this 30,000 minimum we are talking about, there were some states had some discrepancies. Some states, they were saying some states like Delta, Lagos, Rivers, there's a particular amount they will pay, while others will. I think that's where we are still going. You cannot tell Yobe to pay 100,000 minimum wage. You cannot tell, there are no states that can't pay. So we look at very well, and that's why I think our federalism has to really, for now, the way we are going, we must look at it. Is it true federalism we are practicing? Because if you are telling the man in, let's say, Delta to pay your 600 and something minimum wage, and now you also tell that same man in Cross River to pay that same minimum wage, and he tells you, what I am making, both my IGRO and my FAC allocation, you cannot even pay that. Maybe, probably Delta can, and I cannot. It looks as if you are trying to put him on a box and you cannot, to stress him. But what I'm saying is, let labor begin to wake up to tell themselves this truth, that they have to negotiate states by states.
Okay.
Because the federal government can even announce, if you put the federal government to the wall, the federal government will agree to a point, and then at state level, we now find industrial actions around every state. Because the way we are going now, from where the labor started, it's not possible. Nobody will pay you that. Nobody. Okay. Otherwise, we will be buying one box of matches for maybe 10,000 naira if they pay you that.
If they agree to
yes, that. Inflation rate will be crazy. So we can't go there. So I think as it is now, labor and government they have to really talk about it. And that's where it comes to, what are the alternatives? Because there are alternatives to this issue of just increase money. There must be other things that government can do to make life better. So that even whatever comes to the worker, he must not spend all to buy ugu, like Madam has just said.
All right, we'll get to other alternatives the government can do to cushion the effect of hardship on the Nigerian worker. Let's come to you now. Just in the month of March, the federal government instituted or constituted a committee to review the national minimum wage. Would you say that committee and Labour have done well not to have announced a new minimum wage on workers there as Nigerians expected?
I expected, yes. You see, Basically, I want to admonish the fact that the Nigerian worker, like my brother said, that they should not have been angry. Let me tell you why they were angry. Labour has been meeting with agents of government and agencies of government over time. I expected that, Nigerian workers expecting that there should have been some level of compromise being reached. There was a time they even came out and told us that by May 1st, 2024, we are sure Nigerians workers are going to be having a new minimum wage. And people were hopeful, only for it to be dashed. Even if in March, when the committee was set up, it was expected there should have been a time frame. You know, Nigerians are going to political appointees and elected politicians do not suffer the financial backlog and stress that the everyday politician go through. Even if they leave office immediately, they pay them severance package, they pay them everything that's entitled to them. The processes are not cumbersome. So I expected that, having set up a committee to review the minimum wage in view with the prospect of May 1st in hand. From March to May 1st, you had close to like 60 days. So, I mean, 2 months was more than enough time. The committee is going to be funded. Was more than, what are they considering? It was more than enough. So, like Anita said, it has to pass through processes. It will go to the National Assembly because there's a law relating to minimum wage, which for review is supposed to be every 6 months. Because we have a nation where our National Assembly does not show the capacity and responsibility reposed by the people in them, does not mean that we should just shove things away. So if the committee has been given a time frame, I hold the committee accountable for what is happening right now, because people are playing, both especially our unionists. Majority of our unionists are political stooges and political cronies of people in government who have refused to understand the importance and relevance of the office they hold. Most of them go there as representative of trade union, Nigerian Labour Congress and its affiliates, not because they want to truly represent us, but because of their political aspiration. They want to use that as a footstool, as a foundation to build political empires, political cronies, so that when they so desire for political or elective position, it will come easy and they would have had funds at them. Look at most of them. Our unions before, the Shomoles and co. How do they hope to profess solutions? These are people should have been able to tell the APC government at the center that this is a process. Let's do it like this. They are not in the Senate. They should have been able to educate those that do not know on the labor laws. When the first strike happened by Paramadu, by rail workers in 1923 or so, I mean, you saw a Paramadu who was resilient, who was truly fighting for the cause of the workers. How can we, even in our states, at Delta State, in our local level, at the national level, how can we have very few of them that have the integrity and fidelity of a true unionist that is truly accountable to the workers they represent? So I think I'll fault the committee, because the committee should have brought into perspective the importance and relevance of May 1st in relation to the expectations of the Nigerian worker vis-a-vis incrementing the salary, because there's been so much pressure. Now, increment the salary is going to come with a commensurate inflationary trends. But now, the welfare, people don't understand the meaning of minimum wage alone. It's not the welfare of the Nigerian worker. Minimum wage is one of the welfare, and that is what should be looked at. The welfare of the Nigerian worker encompasses minimum wage. We should look at taking charge of security, making sure the Nigerian worker is secure, making sure that the take
okay, now you're going into alternatives.
Okay, yes.
Before we get to that, let me come to Comrade Uche. I have this story here that says there are strong indications that workers will wait for longer time to receive a new national minimum wage, as negotiations are stalled amid excruciating the hardship and mass suffering in the country. Do you want to toe this line, or you doubt that workers will have to wait for long for a new minimum wage?
They will wait for a very long time, if you ask me. Let us be frank with ourselves. You see, the Nigerian Labour Congress, as far as I'm concerned, stopped with Oshomole, but it's so disheartening and so regretful that the same Oshomole that said, he made a statement some years back that if they roll, it was during the military era, if they roll their military tank, that they are going to roll out their labor tank. So NLC, as far as I'm concerned, ended with that regime. But unfortunately, regrettably, the same Oshomole is the same person now in the ruling government and failed to tell the truth to power. unfortunately. I read where the special advisor to the federal government saying that minimum living, they say it's living wage, that it does not sit well with the government. Now I ask, the take home of the members of the upper house and the lower house, does it sit well? Because they are not demanding anything, and they are not buying from the same market of the masses and the common men. So the workers are it's going to be a long wait.
What's your take on that, Comrade Nite?
I think first, Oshunwe has no role to play here. He's just an individual that probably because he has a trade union background.
Okay. We expect that none of his Senate will do something.
You see, 60 days. You must understand this. I think sometimes we just want to shake things for shaking sake. Look at, you come to a bargaining table. The current minimum wage is current.
Which some states have refused to pay till now.
You come as labor, and you say you are starting from 600 and something. Then maybe federal government will come and tell you it's starting at, let's assume, maybe 60 or 70. At what point do you people agree? So even 60 days is not enough for them to agree. Because where labor is starting from, it's like it doesn't even want the thing to work. You see, you will quickly blame government. Sometimes we as labor, I always say that labor shouldn't go into negotiations anymore. They should get consultants to negotiate for them. Because at against labor, we elect people who cannot really talk or truly understand what it means to negotiate. Because where they are starting from is not reasonable at all. Forget it. There's no way I will sit with LLC, TUC, and say they are making sense with this negotiation. Remember, what you are saying is minimum wage.
Yes.
Minimum. Which means your gate man. Or let's assume, if your level 1 will earn 600. Is that realistic in this economy? How will you pay children's school fees? That means there are teachers in school.
Yes.
So we must wake up to know that labor is even an impediment to solving this problem.
Okay.
It's not about government alone. Yes, we are labor people, we must tell the truth that labor is going about it the wrong way. You can't solve it like this. It's unrealistic. For God's sake, are you turning it to Zimbabwe overnight? At least it will take a process for us to get there. But not just one day from 30,000 it goes to 600 and something thousand. Even if you wake up and receive that alert, you might even pass out. It doesn't make sense. So I think
someone like level 15 or level 16 will be taking like 6 million.
But I'm just saying.
So
what we're saying is the point to which Labour started the discussion is a no-brainer. Nobody can discuss on that. So I think that's where they are having problems. Now, are you going to tell me the governors and Federal State will sit in that meeting? He will walk out on you and like, when you wake up, come, we'll talk. Because it doesn't make sense at this point. So I'm saying that Labour, that's my opinion. I think the people who go for this negotiation with Labour, they are just decide Luther will shout. They should get true consultants. Look at it. Look at what is possible. Forget what the politicians are earning, what they are earning. That is at that level. I'm not saying we should argue with them or whatever. And let me tell you something. Some politicians go through more than. Do you know some politicians pay fees for people in their community and all those their nonsense they do? We know that. But what I'm trying to say is, we must negotiate it rightly. You should not only negotiate on the financial side. See, when our parents worked, they will get, the day they get job, they can get a car loan. The same, they will buy a B2. I'm not telling you, they're not buying Benz 200 though. They are buying what is there at that level.
Yes.
There are so many things they had opportunities of accessing just because they had employment letter. These days, it doesn't work that way. So we're saying, when you want to solve this kind of problem, you don't attack it on one front because nobody will agree with you on that. Because it will even boomerang. The moment they agree to 6, let's assume your rent will become 5 million in 1 month.
What's your take on that?
Yeah, basically, the truth.
Yeah, a lot of workers have seen that
the
this
truth
is
is,
not going to work.
I've always been, even on our paper reviews, I've always been an advocate of 615 being an illusion. It's the mindset of an irrational thinking personality. Ajero is not a ghost. He has been in Nigeria. How can you wake up and from 30,000, if you're saying between 100 and 150,
we'll be listening.
We'll be listening. You will come to a compromise easily. But if you look at 600, you not bring propositions that you start saying, are people not surviving with the 30,000?
You are saying a family of 6. Who have 6. Are you having 6 in this generation?
Exactly. So now we're looking retrospectively on the econometrics of the national minimum wage, which boils down to the fact that what is the ripple effect of 615,000? The ripple effect is most of you and I will run to the village because, like you said, house rent will go to 10 million. Inflation is going to be galloping and high, galloping at the same time, and it's going to affect so many things. Now, what we should be looking at is the committee coming to a certain compromise at between 100 to 200,000. That's one. And now, like we have heard on platform faculty today, and when it gets to that level, the individual states, not all the states get the same federal allocation. Now, if the federal government comes out with a policy to say minimum wage now is 180,000 at the federal level, individual states will still have to go and negotiate in relation to the FAC allocation that comes to them. So if Delta State, for example, is able to pay 170, that does not mean Zamfara would be paying 170 or Yobe will be paying 170 according to your resources. The businessman, for example, if Enite is a businessman, is paying his workers 100,000, that my friend Enite is paying 100,000 to his, and we both have pure water factory, does not mean I can pay 100,000 to my own workers. So it's comparative costs that we need to look at. So what is happening now with the 650 is that the labor leaders are using the Nigerian workers as pawns in the chessboard of their political negotiations, because there's no way. I will say it and I will say it again. When you declare 3 days warning strike, then you come out after the first evening and tell us when you declare 3 days warning strike, first and foremost on a Tuesday, 90% of public servants, for example, in Asaba, those that don't stay in Asaba will travel. Then on Tuesday evening, you go into negotiations with agents of government. Then by 10 p.m., you come out to say the strike has been called off, the government has said they will look into it. I will believe you have compromised. Something must have exchanged hands for you. That means you don't have a policy statement of your own. Then how can I trust you as labor leaders? So presently, the national leadership of all the negotiating teams within the labor unions, the Trade Union Congress, the Nigerian Labour Congress and its affiliates, I don't trust them. I take everything they say with a pinch of salt. Vis-a-vis, this is 115,000. It's so laughable.
Let me ask you a question. Okay. What has Labour done to the states that have not paid 30,000?
30 till date. Have they picketed any state?
Yes,
so
that's
what
the
are you
question many
asking?
Nigerians
Have they picketed any state?
So why are we blaming government? Those who will cry are smiling.
They are using it for their own.
I don't trust the Nigerian Labour Congress, and that is the leadership of Nigerian Labour Congress. They are just, he used the word, he said they are just poor, and they are just building their political whatever with it. Okay. I don't trust them because they are not truthful, because they are not realistic.
They're not sincere with the word.
It just says something that if they want to be serious, let them get consultants to be negotiating. Because already they are compromised, and that's why when they say that they are going to, if they don't do it at the end of May, they are going to.
That's a scam. Nobody will take them serious.
No, they are back to the negotiation table.
Yes.
What do you expect?
Let us get it right. Let us get it right.
Let them change the.
Do you know that they've been talking to the government for close to 1 year?
For a long time, yes.
Close to 1 year. Because there was a time they agreed on buses, those palliatives and all the rest, so they've been talking. So it's not much. Now, the problem here, in my opinion, is this. Labor, see, you must remove labor from politics.
Okay.
Completely.
That's
the contrary.
You must. Okay. Now, labor is playing a very bad game that makes the labor very weak. Because for the first time in Nigeria, we have a politician as president. Leave the others who have been president, they're not politicians. They were just fortunate to get there. We have a politician. Remember, what will happen to labor? You get to a time they will call on strike. Nobody will answer.
It has already gotten to that time.
Because what is happening here is that we are noticing that, fine, labor made one big mistake. The Labour Party should be a party, not an arm of Labour Congress.
Yes.
No, they are two different things.
That's
Labour in the UK is not the same with the organized Labour. Now, Labour Party in Nigeria is playing, Labour Congress in Nigeria is behaving as if it's Labour Party. The moment he keeps doing this, we as workers who probably have our free mind to do, who keep suffering because they want to use us to play politics. It doesn't work so. This negotiation, I tell you, federal government can agree to anything. How many workers do they have? But how many states can cope? How many businesses can cope? Can you cope with the inflation?
You remember the statement Mr. President made? What he told Ajero? He said, if you want to, you should wait to 2027 and come and contest. If you want to become president. You can play because you made a statement, and that's why I reference it so that our listeners can understand where that statement was coming from. That labor unionism and labor politics are not supposed to be intertwined. Are two different things. But in Nigeria, we have married both, and look at even what is happening to the Labour Party leadership. And
you won't expect the president to act and fight them. So the president are suffering for what is not our doing. So some individuals have turned that we are
probably, and if you look at it,
yes. So instead of dwelling on the issue of labor and politics, let's look at the Nigerian worker. How this is going to be resolved. Now, most governors and federal government are going back to the negotiation table with labor. What do you think labor should put forward for either the state government or the federal government?
Now, basically, for me, looking at the collective expectations of the Nigerian worker, first and foremost, I'm always of the affirmation that our request is about the welfare of the Nigerian worker, not just minimum wage. Now, if you look at welfare of the Nigerian worker, it's welfare of the entire citizens, because everything must rub off. Now, 70% of the Nigerian worker, they're in the public and private sector. Only 30% are in the public sector. So we should look at because they can't increase salary for the Nigerian worker, and you expect the private. How do you expect the private worker to handle his own workshop? You pay more school fees. I will pay more school fees, like we have mentioned. Yes. So I'm expecting there should be a balance. They need to strike a balance. This is a complex situation because of the inflation, but the government needs to fight inflation as well. They need to fight inflation. Most importantly, the government needs to do more for the people. Power is one thing they need to make sure that they need to restore. Power is essential for the effectiveness and efficiency of their policies. Without power, it will be difficult for the welfareists' entitlements to have an impact on us. With power, so that those in the informal sector can benefit from the minimum wage or increment purposes. So power. This issue of palliative, it's only Nigeria have been used to this coin palliative. So it's for me, it's an extortionist purpose. You should do more for the people, take more responsibility in government and in governance to help for the welfare of the Nigerian worker and the entire Nigerian citizens. But most importantly, the 615 is they should forget about it. They should negotiate in relation to the true face of negotiation. Because no government of Nigeria, even if Peter Obi was president today, can't pay 615, no matter how you want to look at it.
Okay, let's have your take, Comrade Tina.
The Labour Party, the Nigerian Labour Party, they should be truthful to themselves. Okay. They should go back to that negotiating table. But I advise that they should get consultants that will be negotiating for them. If they want to separate politics from their labor thing, they should, tell themselves the truth that 615 is not realistic.
But I just pray the consultant should not be Nigerians.
They should bring a figure that
foreign consultants, please.
No, it's not just about bringing foreign consultants.
I'm just talking
My issue here is this: labor is not negotiating as labor. Okay. See, in the UK. What you see labor, because they always have issues. There's strikes regularly. But when you discuss most times, it's not minimum wage all the time. Okay. There are times you have to ask, because that's why they play us at the end of the day. So those days when I started work, we used to have lift and
yes, LTG.
Because nobody believes we should go on leave. I have money to go. So now they messed that up. Now, if you go to the UK, what you see them negotiating is things like if you negotiate allowances overtime, you won't be arguing. We negotiate on the wrong stuff because we're not negotiating on the real things that take people's money. What they want is transport,
yes,
probably accommodation.
alternatives or the solutions to where we are now? Because there has to be a way, there have to be some solutions to the problem of the new national minimum wage, whether it's implemented now or not. There has to be some basic alternatives. Can we get them?
Yeah, like I was saying, you see, if you want the solution to, yes, negotiate the minimum wage, but if we negotiate and stop at minimum wage, we'll still have this problem 2-3 years down the road. So I'm looking at it from this angle. Negotiate what makes a worker truly a worker. If a worker knows that I started work at level 8, but at level 10 I will be entitled to a 2-bedroom flat, one mortgage somewhere.
Yes.
That worker, it will reduce stress on the worker. That the worker's level to corruption will reduce. Or if the worker knows that, oh, there's a government school on that junction that my child will attend to and not pay school fees, but he will get the same quality of education like the other man who took his own to the other place. The worker knows he will not be forced to take his child to the private school. He knows that his propensity to to spend is gradually being reduced. He knows that if I come out from my house, I can get a bus that will take me to the office or to the market or wherever I want to go on time, cheap, subsidized rate, whatever way they want to do it. That worker will not be shouting about minimum wage, because those are the things that he spends the money on. So we must begin to look at these things, and that's why I say NLC keeps getting it wrong. Those are the things you negotiate for. Those are the things you, even when they are not shouting anything, those are the things you begin to talk to government about. Where is the housing scheme? Where is the mortgage scheme?
In their breakdown, the breakdown that gave them the 615,000 naira. Don't you think some of these things?
No. You can't give me 615,000 naira and think I will build a house with it. I tell you, if you give me 615,000 naira a month, even in 20 years, I still will not be able to build a house, because they how much will the land sell for? How much will a bag of cement? It is nothing. Government takes that responsibility. Anywhere you go in the world, if you go to the UK, when you are 18, you apply for council flat. That's local government's jurisdiction, even local government.
It depends on when we
yes, we know. Like this, we know. Funny enough, it's because, let me explain something to you. If you don't tell them, they will not do it.
Okay, Comretina Uche, let's get your take
But
on
we've been
this.
telling them
What should be the alternatives? Yes.
Alternative. Since I started hearing about this negotiation, even as a young person,
Yes.
it had been minimum wage, and that is the way it had been. So how I wish that the narrative can change, so that we discuss other things apart from this minimum wage, like
Okay.
we just
So what other things